Moctezuma II, Emperor of the Aztecs, ruler of millions. He drank up to 50 cups of chocolate every single day. Not coffee, not tea, chocolate. The Maya civilization, they built pyramids, created advanced mathematics, developed a written language. But gold? It meant nothing to them. Cacao beans were their currency, their treasure, more valuable than any precious metal. For over 3,000 years, Mesoamerica built empires on chocolate. And when Europeans finally discovered it in 1519, they didn't want it. They called it bitter, strange, undrinkable. This is the story of chocolate, and it's stranger than anyone told you. Close your eyes and picture medieval Europe. You're standing in a royal feast hall. The year is 1500. Tables overflow with roasted meats, bread, cheese, wine, but there's something missing, something your modern brain expects but cannot find. Sweetness. Sugar exists, but it costs more than most families earn in a year. Honey is the only affordable option for common people. Dessert, as you know, it doesn't exist. The concept of candy? Unthinkable. European nobility have never tasted what you consider basic pleasures. No chocolate cake, no sweet tea, no caramel, no ice cream. They live in a world where bitter, sour, and savory dominate every meal, where the sweetest thing most people will ever taste is a ripe apple or a spoonful of honey. This is Europe before chocolate, a continent that doesn't even know what it's missing. But here's what they didn't tell you. While Europeans ate bland porridge and drank sour wine, another civilization on the other side of the world was drinking liquid gold every single day. Scroll back to 2000 BC. The jungles of Mesoamerica. The Maya are discovering something extraordinary. A tree, Theobroma cacao. They call it the food of the gods. The Maya don't just drink chocolate. They worship it. They grind roasted cacao beans on heated stones, mix it with water, chili peppers, vanilla, and cornmeal. Pour it back and forth between vessels until it becomes frothy and rich. The resulting beverage? Nothing like the sweet hot chocolate you know. This is bitter, spicy, caffeinated, intoxicating. Mayan rulers are depicted in ancient art holding cacao pods like scepters. High priests serve chocolate at sacred ceremonies. Nobles gather to drink it at celebrations, where its consumption signals wealth and power. But the real story gets stranger. The Maya don't just value chocolate for taste or ritual. They use it as money. 1 cacao bean buys you a large tomato. 10 beans purchase a rabbit. 100 beans? A slave. A prostitute costs 8 to 10 beans. A tamale goes for 1. Think about that. An entire economy running on chocolate. Royal treasuries filled not with gold coins, but with bags of dried cacao beans. The Aztecs, who rose to power after the Maya, took this obsession even further. They believed chocolate was a gift from the gods. Moctezuma II, their emperor, reportedly drank gallons of it daily for energy and as an aphrodisiac. He reserved special beans for his military. This is where it gets weird. The Aztecs valued cacao beans more than gold. Not metaphorically, literally. In their marketplace economy, in their tribute systems, in their concept of wealth itself, chocolate outranked every precious metal. In 1519, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés leads his men into the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. They're expecting gold, treasure, riches beyond imagination. Moctezuma II welcomes them, offers them the most valuable gift in his empire, a golden cup filled with chocolate. The Spanish take 1 sip and spit it out, bitter, spicy, mixed with chili peppers and unfamiliar flavors. To European tongues, it tastes like medicine, like punishment. The conquistadors have no interest in these strange brown beans. But Cortés is smart. He notices something the other Spaniards miss. He watches how the Aztecs trade. He sees bags of cacao beans exchanged for goods and services. He reads the Codex Mendoza, the Aztec tribute lists, and realizes entire regions pay their taxes in chocolate. In 1545, Spanish records document the currency value. 30 cacao beans buy a small rabbit. 100 beans purchase a turkey hen. By the 1570s, Spanish official Garcia de Palacio calculates that 200 cacao beans equal 1 Spanish real, about 26 grams of silver. In today's dollars, that's $16 for 200 beans. 8 cents per bean. But in an empire where chocolate is the primary currency, these beans are literally money growing on trees. The Spanish conquistadors also discover something darker. They find royal storehouses holding massive quantities of cacao beans, mountains of them. They learn that cacao only grows in specific tropical regions, that the Aztecs demand tribute from conquered peoples specifically in the form of chocolate. What happened next changed everything. The Spanish don't just steal Aztec gold, they steal the chocolate economy itself. But there's a problem. Europeans still hate the taste. Back in Spain, cacao beans sit in warehouses, worthless to Spanish palates. Then someone, somewhere, has an idea. What if they add sugar? The exact date chocolate arrived in Spain remains disputed. Some claim Cortés brought it back. Others say it was introduced to the Spanish court in 1544 by Quechua Mayan nobles brought by Dominican friars. What we know for certain: by 1585, the first official shipment of cacao reaches Europe. Spanish merchants mix the bitter Aztec drink with sugar and European spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, anise. They heat it with milk instead of water. The result? A completely different beverage. Sweet, creamy, rich. Nothing like what Moctezuma drank. In 1570, royal physician to King Philip II prescribes chocolate to His Majesty for reducing fevers and easing stomach discomfort. European. Doctors begin testing chocolate for over 100 different medicinal uses. They prescribe it for anemia, poor appetite, mental fatigue, tuberculosis, fever, gout, kidney stones, and poor sexual appetite. Here's the shocking part. Chocolate becomes more than medicine. It becomes an obsession. Spanish noblewomen demand it constantly. Ladies of the court serve chocolate to their visiting guests. They love it so much they request to be served chocolate during church services. The bishops refuse. They ban chocolate consumption in churches, but the women find a loophole. They create chocolatadas, gatherings held immediately after religious services where they chat and drink chocolate to their heart's content. By the early 1600s, chocolate has become part of Spanish palace rituals. Every important visitor receives chocolate. Every celebration features it. The Spanish keep their chocolate recipes secret, guarded like state treasures. But secrets don't last. Royal marriages spread chocolate across Europe like wildfire. In 1615, 14-year-old Anne of Austria, daughter of Philip III of Spain, marries 14-year-old Louis XIII of France. Her wedding gift? An oak chest filled with chocolate. France falls in love. When Louis XIV, the Sun King, marries Maria Theresa of Spain in 1660, chocolate becomes a permanent feature at Versailles. The drink flows at every royal entertainment. But this chocolate still isn't affordable. It's not even close. The cost of importing cacao beans and sugar keeps chocolate exclusively in the hands of aristocracy. High import duties make it even more expensive. Common people never taste it. They can't even dream of affording it. No one saw this coming. Chocolate develops a reputation as an aphrodisiac, despite zero reliable evidence. The rumor alone increases demand among wealthy elites. In 1657, the first chocolate house opens in London on Bishopsgate Street. Making chocolate is too specialized for home preparation. You go to a chocolate house to enjoy the drink and socialize. Within decades, chocolate houses center around St. James's in Westminster. They become exclusive gathering spaces where nobility, wealthy merchants, and politicians discuss current affairs while sipping the expensive beverage. By the early 1700s, Grace Tosier runs the Chocolate House on Chocolate Row in Greenwich. Her husband Thomas works as King George I's personal chocolate maker at Hampton Court. Grace uses these royal connections brilliantly, holding events that match those at the royal court. Her establishment gains the reputation as the Royal Chocolate House, frequented only by the elite. In 1690, King William III and Queen Mary X have Hampton Court Palace rebuilt. They install kitchens dedicated exclusively to making chocolate. Royal records document that the king and queen drink chocolate at breakfast and during levee, the ritualistic royal dressing ceremony performed in front of chosen court members. Their recipe? Water and milk, sugar, egg yolks, and brandy. But the truth is darker than you imagined. As European chocolate consumption explodes, demand for cacao beans skyrockets. Spanish colonies plant cacao throughout the Caribbean. Portugal, England, France, and the Netherlands follow, establishing plantations in Brazil, the Philippines, and Indonesia. Every single plantation runs on slave labor. During the 17th and 18th centuries, thousands of enslaved Africans are brought into captivity to meet Europe's chocolate addiction. The sweet drink European aristocrats sip in their exclusive chocolate houses is built on an industry of human suffering. In the early 1900s, São Tomé and Príncipe, Portuguese island colonies in the Gulf of Guinea, become the world's biggest cacao producers. The colony earns the nickname Chocolate Islands. About 280 plantations operate there, worked by tens of thousands of indentured laborers. Although slavery has technically been abolished, these workers are slaves by another name. They're exploited, forced into debt. The death rate reaches an estimated 20% per year. Wages are withheld. Workers are technically free to return home at the end of contracts, but few survive to make it out. British chocolate manufacturers buy cocoa from these islands. They raise concerns. They even send a journalist to investigate. But they continue buying ingredients from these regions, believing they can address slavery through diplomatic channels. It fails. In 1909, chocolate manufacturers publicly announce they'll buy cocoa from elsewhere. But the damage continues for generations. The real transformation begins in 1831. John Cadbury starts manufacturing chocolate in England. It's a strange business decision. Chocolate remains expensive, consumed only by the wealthy. Then, in 1832, the English government cuts import taxes on chocolate. Suddenly, it becomes slightly more affordable. Cadbury's market expands. But chocolate is still a drink, still labor-intensive to make, still out of reach for working-class families. In 1861, John Cadbury passes the business to his sons, Richard and George. They make a gamble that changes history. They purchase an innovative Van Houten cocoa press from the Netherlands. This machine squeezes cocoa butter from cacao beans. The result? Better taste, better texture, chocolate that's easier to work with. Other manufacturers at the time bulk out their chocolate with animal fat, red lead, and even brick dust. Cadbury's improved product destroys the competition. The brothers outgrow their factory. They build new premises away from the dirty, squalid conditions of city centers. In 1905, Cadbury launches Dairy Milk Chocolate Bar. For the first time in history, chocolate isn't just a drink. It's something solid, something you can carry, something you can eat. In 1906, they launch Bournville Cocoa to compete with Van Houten's process of Dutching cocoa, creating smoother, milder flavor that dissolves easier in liquids. The Industrial Revolution radically transforms chocolate production. Instead of labor-intensive handwork, the process becomes entirely machine-made. Costs plummet. For the first time in 3,000 years, chocolate stops being the food of kings. It becomes a treat for the masses. The Cadbury brothers pass cost savings on to consumers. Working-class families can finally afford what emperors once hoarded. Children can buy chocolate bars with pocket change. This is the moment chocolate lost its status as currency, as medicine, as royal treasure, and became what we know today. Today's chocolate industry generates over $200 billion annually. Global production involves millions of farmers across tropical regions. The average person in developed nations consumes chocolate regularly, never thinking twice about its cost. But ancient techniques are making a comeback. Scientists and historians recreate Mayan and Aztec chocolate recipes. Museums offer tastings of bitter, spicy chocolate drinks made from historical formulas. Specialty chocolatiers experiment with chili peppers, vanilla, and traditional grinding methods. What the Maya valued more than gold, what Moctezuma drank 50 cups of daily, what European royalty hoarded and prescribed as medicine, now sits in gas stations priced at $3. The journey from sacred Mayan ritual to supermarket checkout took 3,000 years. It crossed oceans, toppled empires, created industries built on slavery, transformed from currency to medicine to everyday candy. Every time you bite into a chocolate bar, you're tasting the food that once funded armies, paid taxes, and bought slaves. You're consuming what kings considered their most precious treasure. Chocolate was more valuable than gold because entire civilizations built their economies on it. The Maya and Aztecs used cacao beans as currency for over 2,000 years. A slave cost 100 beans. A rabbit cost 10. Royal treasuries filled with chocolate, not metal. When Europeans discovered chocolate in 1519, they initially rejected it as bitter and strange. Only after adding sugar did it become the obsession that fueled colonial plantations, slave labor, and eventually an industry worth billions. What once required royal status to taste now costs less than a cup of coffee. Moctezuma drank 50 cups daily and never imagined a world where children buy chocolate bars at gas stations. The Maya couldn't conceive that their sacred currency would become mass-produced candy. European royalty, who installed dedicated chocolate kitchens in their palaces, would be shocked to see chocolate sold in vending machines. Every dish has a history. Every ingredient tells a story. And chocolate's story is about power, wealth, slavery, and transformation. The next time you unwrap a chocolate bar, remember, you're holding what emperors once hoarded, what kings prescribed as medicine, what entire empires valued more than gold itself.